Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Ready Inc., the channel all about bringing you as much nerdy content as possible. I finally done it. I finally compiled my top 10 4-star dragons for this game. Let's get into this. Alright, so I want to point out, before we get started, that this is in no order at all. Just all of the dragons are very good, and they're very good in different aspects of the game, okay? So just kind of take that how it is, and then we'll just go on with the list with that knowledge. Also, some of the things on this list are not element specific, but some are. If I did element specific, then I would have like 3 dragons on this list, and it wouldn't be a very good list, okay? So some of them will be all the elements of that version. Some of them will just be the one element of them. Alright? Alright, so to get started here, I'm gonna go with the bane of my existence in this game. Just one of those super annoying dragons to deal with in PvP. Water Wonder Dragon, right? I mean, I've probably said this dragon's name more times in all of my videos through the years than any other dragon in this game. Like, I bet second place doesn't even come to half as number of times as I've said this dragon's name. But yeah, so what makes this dragon so great, right? First of all, it has a thing called zombie state, where when it dies and runs out of health, it comes back to life for 45 seconds with no health, and it just attacks, and it just keeps doing its normal thing with no health. The only way to kill it is with buff removal and removing the zombie state buff off of its bar. And if you have lots of buffs, like attack buffs and crit rate buffs, defense buffs from all the other dragons on your team, it makes removing that one single buff a bit of a pain. So that's why he is definitely probably the first mention on this. I wouldn't say he's number 1, but he's definitely a reason I went with him first. Alright, since we're in the water section though, I'm going to go with another water type here, and this is going to be Water Fairy Dragon. As a healer, this dragon, it makes the top 10 in PvP every week as a healer. Usually not the only healer to a list, but when they're running a double healer list, there's a good chance this dragon is on that list. Why is that, right? So of course, it's going to have all these nice little healing bonuses and stuff like that, really nice. But what sets it apart from other healers besides the fact that it heals, right? And that's going to be that every 20 seconds here, which you can drop down to every 13 seconds, this dragon has an 80% chance, which is really good in this game. 80% chance is super solid. For 2 dragons on the enemy team, which means you're probably going to get one. At 80% chance, you should get one of them. Silence for 7 seconds, prioritizing defense types. So getting rid of the Tropheus that's in your way in PvP, getting rid of the Lightning God Dragon that's on defense on the enemy team. It just takes out all those nuisances, so that way you can go straight for the good stuff. And this is a passive skill that just does it on its own, triggers every 13 seconds. And it silences them for 7 seconds, which is a pretty hefty amount of time. I mean, they're considering that half the time that you're using the skill, it's already, they're silenced for that time. So, pretty great dragon right there for a healer. If you're looking for a healer for your PvP team, that you don't have one yet, easy dragon to get. Like I said, these are all 4 stars. These dragons are so easy to get. The Light and Dark's a little bit more difficult, but still not too terrible. Also, enhancing them is super easy, super cheap, and getting mastery level 10 on them is super easy. Compared to a 5-star dragon, some of these dragons, we'll get to it, but they do more damage for way longer than a 5-star dragon does, and I'll get into that. Alright, so I want to kind of shift gears away from PvP for a little bit, and touch on another dragon that is amazing for Ancient Tower. Ancient Tower is the one where you have to get up to, you have to clear, 50 floors every week and a half, and you get really good rewards, and then at the end of it, you get ranking rewards, which is really nice, and vaults. All of the vaults, really. It doesn't really matter which one you do. They kind of work a little bit differently, but they all have the same kind of premise, and they have this amazing passive that just clears Ancient Tower for you. You literally, for the first like 20 floors, you almost don't even have to use a drag skill, except for on the final boss. If you want just a little bit better of time, you can use it there. But really, I run 2 volts on my Ancient Tower team, and I think last week I scored like 21st place or something like that. So really high on the chart, just running 2 volts and 2 Mud Dragons. Mud Dragon's not on this list because it's a 3-star, but it's the same exact premise as Volt, and they just clear the way super fast. So what exactly am I talking about here? And it's this passive right here is every set duration, inflict damage to a random enemy, inflict ×2 damage to enemies above 80% of their HP. So also, it starts at the beginning of battle, which in Ancient Tower is super critical because you got to clear that as fast as possible. I mean, like lightning fast, okay? So he works great for that, and he has a target count of 7. So you're pretty much, for the most part, you're going to clear the entire enemy in one go here. I run 2 of them just to make sure the job gets done because they both fire their attacks off at the same time. They're both triggering this ×2 damage because all the enemies are at max health because the battle just started. And then it shifts me over into the next phase, and what I like to do is alternate with the Mud Dragons, because the Mud Dragons then they use their passive, same basic concept, and clear the second stage, and then we move immediately into the final stage in about 4 seconds. So great dragons. All 4 elements are awesome. They just work a little bit differently. Some of them are every 4 seconds. Dark type is every 3 attacks, so a little bit different. Same basic concept though. Alright, again, we're going to shift gears and go to another type of game mode, and Clan Dungeon. Clan Dungeon for a lot of players is their end game. So PvP is the end game for a lot of players, and then Clan Dungeon is the other end game for other players, of trying to get those max score, those max runs, that they can do as much damage during the week as possible. One of the best ways to do that is running a Hedge Dragon. All 4 of these elements are pretty much a must-have for any player, really. Any player, no matter if you're new, old, ancient, you should be having a full roster of these guys for your bottom lane Clan Dungeon, right? Why do I say that? So their drag skill is huge. So swing a mace, whatever, the attacker receives a 30% bonus for an attack, has a target count of 5. The bottom lane Clan Dungeon has 7 targets that you can hit, so you can pretty much always guarantee you're going to hit 5 with this. Not only, you know, this is, okay, cool, there's other dragons in the game that do the same thing, right? However, look at this damage multiplier. 2.5 times damage to bosses. That is huge. That is a massive bonus. If you look at like the best PvP dragons in the game, if they have a bonus on their drag skill, you know how much that times bonus is? It's like 1.2, 1.4 times bonus. That's it. That's how they cap out on these little tiny buffs. This is a 2.5 times damage bonus. It only works on bosses, or else this would be busted in PvP, but it makes this drag skill just absolutely destroy in Clan Dungeon on the bottom lane. It doesn't work quite as well on top. I mean, sure, you do bonus damage, but there's other dragons that do that better, that are just a single target attack, which is what bottom or top lane is a single target attack, whereas the bottom lane is the multiples. So this dragon excels here. Now you're thinking, well, there's stuff like, you know, Mini Dragon and Dark Bane and Poseidon. They do all this, but they hit 7 targets, right? You're not wrong. They do kind of the same basic concept. They get a huge damage multiplier as well when they hit all 7 targets, which is really hard to line up in any other game mode. That's why they're not good in PvP, because you're never going to hit 7 targets in PvP. But in Clan Dungeon, they'd excel. However, those are 5-star dragons. I don't have my 5 stars all the way enhancement 6, mastery level 10. I don't have it done. It's just, especially for these dark types, takes so many materials to do this. 4-star, no time at all. Maybe 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, and you'll have them maxed out. Mastery 10, enhancement level 6, and at that point, once they hit that mastery 10, these guys are going to be throwing out probably I would say at least 2 times as much damage, or at least 1.5 times damage compared to those other 5 stars that aren't maxed out. Because it's gonna, I mean, it's taken me a year and some change to get my light mini dragon up to that point. That's just an example. There's no light hedge bat here, but just an example of how long it can take to get that mastery level 10 on some of those 5-star dragons. And you're going to be wanting to use those masteries on like your PvP dragons, right? That's where you're going to be wanting to put those focuses. So being able to get these guys up is a lot better. And including that, when you get into the really high level play, you're probably going to be running 2 DPS on bottom lane. One of the 3 I mentioned, or if you're super boss, you could run 2 of those 3 that I mentioned. However, again, the chances of them having mastery 10 on both of them, super slim. But you can easily sub in one of these guys as your second DPS slot, and they'll probably be doing more damage than those 5 stars are. Just saying. And following that note, we're going to look at Mummy Gone. The same exact basic concept here, except for this is the top lane that you're going to be using this on, and for Clan Dungeon. And it's the same basic thing here, but this is a target count of 1. But look at that, times 3 damage. It only applies to fire enemies, though. So your relevance of getting use out of these guys is very situational. You're not going to use it in PvP, but it's phenomenal for Clan Dungeons. You'll want every single one of these for your elements. So same concept. There's other dragons in the game that do this same thing, but they don't do it as well, okay? Or they don't do it for the same amount of energy it costs. This is only 2 mana, so it recharges faster, so you can use this skill a whole lot more, and it does that crazy amount of damage. So great dragon. The only thing it kind of compares to is Tilki. Tilki does the same basic thing here. Alright, and then I want to kind of close out the whole Clan Dungeon concept right here with the Clown Dragon. This is not going to be an all-element. This is really, realistically, it's just the light Clown Dragon. They all kind of do the same thing where they have a single target attack as well. However, this is a 3 mana cost, so not as much damage that you're going to be able to do in a full, 2-3 minutes of Clan Dungeon, because you're going to be able to spam the 2 mana cost a whole lot more than this guy. But still does solid damage for when it does. It has a nice AoE, well, kind of an AoE here. It maybe not that one. Sorry, not an AoE, but it has an attack where it shoots out a whole bunch of cards all at once that hit the enemy, and they do a whole bunch of damage. This one also decreases the target's defense. So if you're using this on top lane of Clan Dungeon, all of these attacks just hit the boss over and over, so it does a whole lot of damage here. You get the damage multiplier, again, only 1.3 times compared to that 2.5 and 3 times multiplier we're seeing earlier. But still great. I love it for the fact that it has a great leadership. Critical rate up is very uncommon in this game, especially on a single target attacker. So this is usually my leader. I'll have this and like a mummy as my secondary DPS on my top lane, and then this guy usually running the leadership. In the higher levels, once you get over about the level 50, level 60s of Clan Dungeon, you'll probably drop this for some more defense, but that's a whole tactical situation. Aside from that, I think he's one of the best single target attackers in the game. Especially, he's the best single target 3 mana cost attacker in the game. I used him for a long time in PvP as my go-to attacker. He puts in a lot of work. He's a great dragon, does really well. Some people use the other elements, so when the elements change in Clan Dungeon every week, they swap to the different elements to get that bonus. You can do that. I usually just stick to light just because I think his other passives here are just a little bit better. I think he does more damage than all the others, so by far, even if he's not in the correct element. Alright, sticking with light here, we're going to look at Vezina. I've talked about Vezina a lot. I love Vezina. I think it's a great healer. Very reminiscent of Dark Totem, who is, for a long time at least, was the best healer in the game. He has since kind of fallen from his throne. However, Dark Totem is still very good in very specific types of teams. And Venezi is just kind of like that same original package of a healer, just kind of watered down a little bit, more accessible because he's only a 4-star. Where if I've never gotten a Dark Totem and I played this game for 2.5 years and I've never pulled a Dark Totem, and I've pulled countless, 30, 40 Venezis at this point in this game. So why do I say he's like a watered down version, right? So he scales off of attack, which is the same thing. His target count, unfortunately, is only a 3 instead of a target count of 4 on that heal. So a little bit less impactful. Gets a little bit bonus here, which is kind of nice on the heal. And this right here, he has a resurrect ability, which is super rare in this game. Not a whole lot of resurrects going around, so very, very important to have, usually in a lot of game modes, an ability that resurrects. Dark Totem has this. This dragon has it as well. However, when you actually use this, it actually comes back with more health than Dark Totems does when the Dark Totem does its revive. So just kind of a key note there that's pretty important. Also, he's a buffer, right? So he's going to give out buffs that are very good for your attack type allies, right? So all of your allies trying to do that nice DPS. He gives out buffs. He gives out a, which is kind of neat, a HP absorption effect. So all that damage that they do, they get a heal up for it, which is pretty nice and very different from Dark Totem. However, it only increases defense, whereas Dark Totem gives out I think he gives out, like, he keeps 2 attack buffs up at all times on whoever's your healers or your attackers, which is a lot better than Venezi. Venezi doesn't quite give out, all those nice attack buffs. So that's kind of the drawback here, is you don't get all those nice juicy attack buffs. You just get this HP absorption effect. Still, I've used this dragon for a long time, off and on. He's currently in my PvP team, actually. I'll probably be changing him out here shortly, just because I'm trying something new. Whenever I put him on there, I jumped up to top 50. I was in the 40s running this guy, but I want to see if I can get a little bit higher, so I'll probably change up my team again here soon. Just play. I mean, you're always changing your PvP team, so it makes having 4-star dragons on your PvP team very nice, because they're a lot easier to power up, so it's a lot easier to kind of play. Finishing up the lights here, we've got a Cyberdragon. A lot of you were like, probably did not see this coming on this list. Some of you are like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. I know where he's going with this. Cyberdragon's been in this game for a long time. I think he was one of the originals, and never got any love until recently. In the past, I don't know, maybe 3 months or so, really getting a lot more play, and I've been curious of why that is. The light Cyberdragon specifically. So he's a defense type. He's a tank, right? He does a little bit of AoE here. 3 target count isn't much. He's got a nice passive here where he works exactly like Trophius. Yeah, he takes the damage in place of another ally, and this effect is always up because you can reduce the cooldown to 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds, this thing moves to the weakest enemy, which is great, and it has the decreases the damage taken while he absorbs all that damage. So that's super cool. Works just like Trophius, which is pretty awesome. Even gets the invulnerable state, which is pretty nice for 10 seconds. That's a pretty long invulnerable state. Only once, though, pretty much for one fight. It's only going to happen once, but really nice. But what makes this dragon different from Trophius, which I literally just learned about not too long ago, is the bonus on the drag skill. 90% chance to stun for 5 seconds. That's nuts. 90%, I mean, that's almost a guaranteed. I mean, realistically, and especially if you're hitting 3 targets at once, but for 5 seconds, a stun. That's way better than sleep, okay? Sleep, they get hit, they just come right back awake. Stun, that stun's there. Unless they remove that buff, which, are they going to remove that buff in 5 seconds? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Or debuff, I should say. That's huge. That's way better than Trophius. I think the stun is just way better all around. It's way more useful and way more impactful no matter what it hits. So great dragon, great tank for sure. Mainly for PvP though. I don't really see him used anything else that he would be that good in, but very solid tank choice for PvP. Okay, so I did kind of lie about being done with Clan Dungeon. I do want to touch on one more here, but he's a little more useful than just Clan Dungeon. I mean, you could, for newer players, you can use this dragon in a lot of other places. Veteran players probably will only use him in Clan Dungeon. I used him in my PvP team for a good while because I had no way of getting mana regeneration in this game because meditation runes were out of my reach for the dungeons, getting them out of dungeons. I couldn't pull any 5 stars that would give me anything. I mean, I guess I could have used a Lamgon, but they don't really provide much else in terms of the Lamgons. But this guy right here, great dragon. On critical hit, when he uses his drag skill, you get mana rate doubled for 9 seconds. 9 seconds, that's a long time to have double mana going. So pretty awesome right there. Pretty easy to get critical hits, especially early on in the game. Just getting some critical rate runes, throw them on there, easy, done. On a critical hit, also 90% chance to delete 2 beneficial effects. So great for killing the water wonder dragons. If you're in that part of PvP where they're everywhere, it's like level 100 through 200 in the rankings. Water wonder dragons are everywhere. Great way to get rid of that. Just really any beneficial effects, just deletes them. So great dragon for that. However, when you start getting a little more high up there, and those aren't really what you're looking for, you start getting stuff like this right here, which is you lower that cool. Oh no, this one doesn't lower it. But every 15 seconds. Oh, that's what it was. It's still, you get the full 15, but 80% chance to affect target with up to 2 defense decrease effects, which is great on Clan Dungeon for that top lane because you'll always be targeting the boss because there's only one, and you'll put 2 defense decrease effects. So you just do a whole lot more damage, which is great, and that's for a full 15 seconds, and this ability triggers every 15 seconds. So you're pretty much always guaranteed to have that defense decrease debuff on them all the time. Not only that, but every set duration decrease the attack of enemies at the rear for 30 seconds, triggering every 30 seconds as well, which you can actually reduce down to 20 seconds. This was the one I was thinking of that you could reduce the cooldown. So for about 10 seconds there of that 30 seconds, you're actually going to have 2 attack down debuffs on the boss. So not only decreasing the defense by 2, but you're also decreasing the attack by 2, which is super important, especially when he starts shooting the lasers at everyone top and bottom lane. It's really important to have that the 2 attack debuffs down. You can't time that yourself because this is a passive skill, but it's nice when it lines up. But either way, you need that attack down debuff at bare minimum, if nothing else. So great dragon for Clan Dungeon top lane, and early on I think he has a lot of viability in other game modes for sure, and that's the Fire Gaudium specifically. Alright, and before we cover the last one on the list, I do want to have a couple honorable mentions for you guys. Mystic Teeny here is on the list, particularly a good alternative for Fire Gaudium, especially on the week when you go against water and he has the element disadvantage. Really good idea to switch over to the Earth Mystic Teeny, at least for that. Light Pharaoh here is another one of those honorable mentions. Provides a nice little barrier, but what's nice is he has a built-in mana regeneration ability that gets you mana back, which is nice. But on top of that, he also has a passive that buffs up the damage of all your attackers. So whatever game mode you want to put this guy in, I think he excels. They have since come out with new 5 stars that do this exact same thing as he does. They just do it a little bit better. The percentages are just a little bit higher. But again, those are 5-star dragons. They're very difficult to power up. They might not always be worth powering up just for a simple support like that, whereas you want to focus on your healers and your tanks and your attackers way before you ever worry about your support. So, which makes using Light Pharaoh way more viable because he's so much easier to max out. Alright, and last honorable mention is just Light Alien here. Really good dragon. It's particularly, I use it in my light teams a lot for like Ancient Tower, or not Ancient Tower, but Tower of Tests, where I have to use an all light team. I like him on there still to this day. I used to use him on my top lane clan dungeon. I've since swapped him out for something else, but mainly he's on here because he reduces the cooldown timers of all of your 2 mana cost dragons. So when they're all on cooldown and you use his drag skill, it drops all their cooldown timers, which is super nice. Just speeds up the whole team a whole lot more, as well as he reduces the mana cost of everyone on the team by 1. So all your drag skills, their mana cost gets reduced by 1. Really nice. So I used to use him in Clan Dungeon a lot on that top lane, just because you can trigger those skills, just keep it going really fast. Like I said, I've since switched off of him, went for something else that gives a little bit more buffs. Has really nice mana regeneration instead of this guy who just reduces the cost. I went with something that just gives me more mana, which essentially is kind of the same thing. Potentially, depends on how much mana you use in one go. But also, I don't have to use a drag skill to reduce my cooldown timers with the new dragon I switched to, which is Urian, in case you're curious. Alright, and my last on the list of my top 10 4-stars is going to be Teddy Dragon, right? Some of you players that are new or just don't really in the know, he is a recovery dragon, right? But for off and on in the meta, I mean, literally, he comes and goes regularly, so you should get one and probably just hang on to him, no harm in it, and powering him up. He's a healer that overall isn't too crazy. His target count is only 2, which isn't a whole lot, but when he does it, he puts an invulnerable effect for 3 seconds on whoever he uses it on, so you can spam this out pretty quickly, which is really nice. The heals are huge. So usually when you have a 2 target count healer, the heals are way more powerful than those that spread it out. So those 3 and 4 target healers, they don't heal nearly as powerfully as the 2 target counters do. Again, you know, the trade-off is obvious, the more targets versus the few. But that invuln, if you can time it out, you know that the cooldown timers is probably about to hit on their big attacker, and you go in and drop this invuln shield on top of whoever you need to protect. Works out great. I'd probably use him more in a 2 healer kind of list, like a 2 healers, a tank support, DPS, and as just kind of a backup healer, but also to use that utility. Again, more heals on the skills there. You can create a barrier every, is it 20? No, 13 seconds for a total of 12% of your max HP. It only works on 1 though, but it's usually going to be a pretty crucial piece if it's down that low, which is nice. Also, what do we got here but another Resurrect? So any chance you can get a Resurrect in this game, always good to have and hold on to because it's very important. I think Teddy's probably the best healer for the Earth Tower of Tests. We might actually have a new one that actually might top him, but I think he is a limited dragon 5-star, so very difficult to get. This dragon's so easy to get, so easy to power up. I mean, it's just, and he's a core element, so super easy. Great healer here. Used in lots of PvP teams, top 20 PvP teams, fairly regularly, off and on. Like I said, he comes in and out of the meta. So definitely, all the dragons on this list here, I definitely recommend at least trying to get all of them up to 5-star, 6-star them. Slowly start working on getting those masteries and the enhancements on them. Because, like I said, out of all these dragons here, how many do I use still to this day after 2.5 years of playing this game? Volt, Mummy, Hedgebat, Light Venezi, Light Clown, let's see, and Gaudium. So out of the top 10 there, I use 6 of them still to this day. ones I used for a long time were pretty much all the others there. The Water Wonder Dragon I used for a long time. Um, the Water Fairy I haven't used yet, but I'm actually powering one up right now to try to use in PvP, just because that silence that he gives out is just so crazy. But yeah, and Light Alien, used it for a long time, just recently swapped off of it. Light Pharaoh, used it for a long time. Mystic Teeny, I've never used. I probably should. I started to power one up, particularly, like I said, for when you're on that week when fire is at a disadvantage. It's really good to have an earth to swap in. But yeah, so that's the list. I hope you guys liked this video. I know it's kind of a longer one, but I try to get as much information as possible. I know you guys ask for this kind of stuff a lot. I get this in the comments all the time. I'm making a top 10 list. I know it's not a 5-star list. Problem is that list changes a lot. Almost every time we get a new dragon, the list changes because they always try to one-up themselves and make a better dragon, make a better dragon, make a better dragon. So it makes that list get outdated a lot faster than something that has 4 stars and a 3 stars. My 3-star list is still to this day like on point, really good. So I expect this one to last as well, because a lot of these dragons are kind of timeless and they just don't fall off. They've introduced other 4 stars for a couple times, and those dragons aren't on this list. So that should tell you how good these 4 stars are, that they've stood the test of time. Again, I'll get around to making a 5-star eventually. It took me a little while between the 3 and the 4, so it might be another little while again. We'll see. If you guys beg for it enough in the comments for a 5-star, top 5-star list, I guess I'll make one. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please support the channel in any way you can. Just liking the video or subscribing is a huge, huge help. And if you really want to support the channel, consider checking out my Patreon. There's a link in the description below for it. You can get access to my Discord server as well as some other cool incentives. Also, check out my official merch store. There's a link in the description below for my Teespring account. You get access to all my cool merch that I've got on there, as well as some other cool stuff, cool phone cases, that sort of thing. But like I said, any kind of support is always appreciated. Just simply liking the video can go a very, very long way for me. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.